Welcome to the Zombie Story Zone. In tonight's chilling episode, we follow Tom, a night shift stalker at a 24-hour supermarket. What starts as a quiet, routine night quickly spirals into a terrifying ordeal as Tom realizes he's not alone in the aisles. Something sinister lurks in the shadows, and survival is the only thing on his mind. Join us for Night Shift Nightmare, where every step could be his last, and the supermarket shelves become a deadly battleground.
Tom yawned as he pushed his cart down the empty aisle, stacking cans and bags on the shelves under the fluorescent hum of the supermarket lights. It was almost a prime quiet time for night shifts, and he'd grown to appreciate the calm. For him, this job was supposed to be a breeze, just a few hours of light stocking, a snack break, then home in time for a quick nap before the rest of the world woke up. But tonight felt different. The silence felt too thick, the kind that made his skin prickle. As he stacked a bag of chips on the top shelf, a strange, metallic scraping noise echoed from the entrance. Tom froze, heart pounding, and turned toward the front doors. They slid open and shut in an odd rhythm, though no one seemed to be outside. For a second, he wondered if it was just a glitch. It had been a long night, and he was exhausted. But then, he noticed something strange on the security camera monitor next to the counter, a dark shape, lurking just beyond the entrance. Tom frowned, slowly walking toward the doors. As he approached, a foul, rotting smell washed over him. His stomach turned. He stopped in his tracks and squinted through the glass, trying to get a better look. That's when he saw it, a figure stumbling toward the door, its skin a sickly, grayish-green, and its eyes milky and vacant. He took a step back, his pulse quickening. The figure's mouth opened, letting out a low, guttural moan. Tom's hand went to his walkie-talkie, but all he heard was static. He pressed the button harder, desperate to reach anyone, but it was no use. He was alone. The figure reached the doors, and with a loud crash, its body slammed against the glass. Tom stumbled back, tripping over a box of detergent as he scrambled to his feet. He wasn't sure what he was looking at, but every instinct told him to run. He bolted down aisle 4, heart pounding in his ears, and ducked behind a stack of boxes. He peeked around the corner. To his horror, he saw more of them, 4 figures now, each one shuffling through the automatic doors and into the supermarket. Their clothes were torn, faces slack, and hands reaching out like they were searching for something. Or someone. They're zombies, Tom thought, panic washing over him. It sounded ridiculous, but he'd never seen anything else like it. He had to get out. He took a deep breath, glancing at the emergency exit in the back. If he could make it there, he'd be home free. But first, he'd have to sneak past them. Tom crouched low and crept through aisle 7, carefully weaving between the shelves. He reached the pet food section and nearly slipped on a bag of kibble that had fallen onto the floor. The clatter echoed through the store, and his heart jumped into his throat as he saw one of the zombies jerk its head in his direction. He ducked, holding his breath, waiting for the creature to shuffle away. But it didn't. Instead, it turned toward him, its mouth opening in a terrible groan. Tom's mind raced. He needed something, anything, to defend himself. His eyes darted around and landed on a nearby mop leaning against a shelf. Better than nothing, he thought, grabbing the handle and clutching it like a spear. The zombie staggered closer, dragging one leg behind it. Tom's hands shook as he raised the mop handle, his heart hammering in his chest. As it reached him, he swung with all his strength, the end of the handle catching the zombie in the face. It stumbled back, letting out a snarl, but it didn't stop. Tom swung again, this time with more force, and finally, it collapsed to the ground. Tom took a shaky breath, trying to steady himself. He could still hear more of them in the aisles nearby, their footsteps growing louder. Desperate, Tom darted toward the freezer section. The air was cold and sharp, mist forming in front of his face with each breath. He crouched between the ice cream cases, praying that the zombies wouldn't think to look there. But they did. A shadow moved at the end of the aisle, and he held his breath, watching as 2 figures stumbled past him, their heads swiveling, sniffing the air. Tom hugged the freezer case, trying to stay out of sight. The zombies moved on, and Tom took his chance. He slipped out of the freezer section and sprinted down aisle 12. He knew there was a small security room in the back. If he could just get inside, he might be able to lock the door and call for help. The banging on the security room door was loud enough to shake the walls. Tom had managed to lock himself inside just moments before the zombies had swarmed the entrance, but now he was trapped. He quickly checked the monitors. The store was crawling with them, moving slowly, methodically, searching every aisle. His heart sank as he realized his phone was back in the break room. He had no way of calling for help. Tom slumped against the door, his mind racing. He scanned the security monitors, trying to find a path to the emergency exit. Then, he noticed something. The front doors were still wide open. If he could make a run for it, he might be able to slip outside while the zombies were distracted. Summoning his courage, Tom grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall. He took a deep breath and unlocked the door. The zombies outside hadn't noticed him yet. He moved quickly, slipping past the aisles and keeping low. But as he reached aisle 9, he saw 2 zombies blocking his path. They turned toward him, their mouths open, letting out that horrible, guttural moan. With no time to think, Tom lifted the fire extinguisher and sprayed, the white foam creating a blinding cloud. The zombies stumbled, their movements clumsy, and Tom darted past them, sprinting toward the front of the store. But as he neared the exit, a group of zombies moved in from the produce section, cutting him off. Desperation took over, and he swung the fire extinguisher, knocking one zombie back, but more were closing in. He was surrounded. He spotted a nearby stack of metal grocery carts and threw himself toward them, pushing with all his might. The carts rolled forward, crashing into the zombies and knocking them off balance. Tom took the opening and bolted for the front doors, his lungs burning, heart racing. Outside, the first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon. Tom stumbled into the empty parking lot, his eyes wide, breath coming in gasps. He turned back toward the supermarket, watching as the zombies crowded the glass doors, their hollow eyes staring out at him. He was free, but for how long? He could already hear faint screams in the distance, see movement in the shadows down the street. The nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. Tom took one last look at the supermarket and ran, disappearing into the first rays of morning, ready to face whatever horrors lay ahead.